Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have Julie Wittes Schlack. I said that correct. And she's the author of 2 books, Burning It at Dodging and This All at Onceness. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, good to be here.
And they're 2 different kinds of books.
Yeah.
Which one would you like to tell us all about first?
Well, we'll start with This All at Onceness.
Sure,
because it, in many ways, planted the seeds for Burning and Dodging. So This All at Onceness is actually a series of linked personal essays. So it's nonfiction. It's less about my life, though, and more about the times I grew up in. And its inception was actually with a story I heard on NPR about this TV broadcast in 1967. It was the first time they'd used communication satellites. There were only 4 of them up there. And they were doing this real-time, 3-hour broadcast to and from every time zone in the world, in real time. So, and they had, the Beatles. It was the Beatles' last televised performance. They had all kinds of artists and athletes and Marshall McLuhan and sort of intellectual heavyweights. And the vision was really to use technology to kind of recognize and bring together this global village, which was a term McLuhan had just coined. So it was very idealistic, and was really the first large-scale shared experience, synchronous experience, in human history in some respects. So when I heard about it, my first thought was, I want to write a great sprawling historical novel with all kinds of real people and made-up people, and I didn't do that. It was, my ambitions exceeded my abilities at that point. But what I did do was write a series of essays that really looked at what is community, what is shared experience, how does culture get made, and how did this idealistic technology basically turn into social media and in many ways destroy culture as much as make it. So it was about that trajectory. And
So, personal and political, intimate and informative, bracing and comic, these linked essays take us to an abortion mill in rural Quebec, the Michigan home of numerous UFO sightings, an abandoned Shaker village, the dust-clogged air of garment sweatshirts in Allentown, a philanthropic corporate breakfast, and a dystopian market research conference. Wow. That is a lot. It must have taken you a while to write this.
Well, I've been working on bits and pieces of it over the years, and then I was in an MFA program where I needed to produce a thesis, which was a book, or at least part of a book. So it probably all of them were written over the course of about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time. When you left high school, where did you grow up, Julie?
So I was born in Montreal, and
do you speak French?
Badly.
Okay, I speak Parisian. Okay, so
yeah. So you speak Parisian, I speak Québécois. Well, no, actually, I speak more Parisian than Québécois.
Yeah.
Bien sûr. Mais I lived in Montreal till I was 10 or 11. At which point, my parents went back to school, and we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I went to middle school and high school and college there.
In Michigan.
In Michigan,
right.
Yeah. So the Quebec abortion mill and the UFO sightings in Michigan were certainly rooted in my own.
So you were in high school in Michigan.
Yeah.
And then did you know when you went to college what you wanted to do?
I wanted to either be a writer or a psychologist. So I majored in both and then did neither for 30 years.
You are a writer.
Now I am, but I had a long break there when I was doing labor organizing and working in factories and having kids. And
you worked in factories? That's hard work. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I worked in garment mills and electronics mills, or factories for a while.
Isn't Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Muhlenberg is in Allentown.
Did you go to that one?
No. I mean, other than I probably went to a reading or a concert there or something, but yeah.
Yeah. So when you got out of college, you're probably like myself and a lot of us, what do I do now?
Right.
Was that it too?
Yeah, well, I graduated during the 1975 recession. I was a typist, and I typed catalog cards for one of the MIT libraries for a while, but was very interested in the labor movement and unionization, and so my then boyfriend, now husband, and I moved to Allentown, and that's when we did our factory stint. At a certain point, we just sort of burned out and moved back. We had our first kid, we moved back to Boston.
I love it when they have the reviews on the back. You've got some excellent reviews here, plus a beautiful picture, so the two go together. She is a writer and a teacher, and her fiction and all essays have appeared in numerous journals such as Shenandoah, The Writer's Chronicle, Ninth Letter, and Mashable. She reviewed books from the Boston Globe and is a regular contributor to Cognoscenti, an online journal of ideas and opinions. What is that?
So Cognoscenti is, I think I'm actually supposed to pronounce it Cognoscenti, but I never do. Right.
Yeah.
So WBUR, which is an NPR station in Boston, about 10 years ago, maybe more, started this daily website with op-eds and personal essays. And the editors there were terrific. There's been some turnover, but I've kept my connection with them. So it's a great place to try out and to really refine the sort of 800 to 1,000 word essay, which is one of my favorite forms because
you said you just came from a writers group in Boston. A writers.
Actually, I am part of a writers group in Boston but I actually just came from just a book club in Boston last night.
That's a long hike. Northampton to Boston?
Unlike you, I like to drive.
Oh!
Yeah.
You like highways?
I like roads of all kinds.
Oh my God. We were on the highway when we went down to Ware, and it seemed like from when I was a kid growing up, there were a load of, Mom called them elephants, these huge 18-wheelers. Did you notice that? A ton more?
No. But I mean, I have to, since I now live in Northampton, as you know, which is a much smaller town. So, there's just, I guess I'm in the car a lot less. I'm just on my feet a lot more. Yeah.
When we went to Northampton, there was the Scottish Festival they have every year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went to that, and it was really fantastic. They even had an ancestry table and all that. You could check on your Scottish ancestors.
Ah.
Now, this was the first book that you wrote. This All at Onceness. How could they get a hold of this book, Julie?
So, you can get it either at my publisher's website, which is Regal House or regalhousepublishing.com. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any online bookstore, any bookshop.org. It's not, and if your physical bookstore doesn't have it, you can simply ask them to order it. And strangely,
will you be leaving a couple of copies down at the dedicated local authors section in the library?
Sure.
That's a great way, although, to get the book out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If somebody wanted to have you come give a presentation and book sign, how would they reach you?
So they would reach me at JW Schlack, that's JWSCHLACK @gmail.com. I've also got a website, which is Julie Wittes Schlack, which I won't bother spelling out for you now. But if you go to juliewittisschlack.com, there's also a place to comment or to reach me there.
That's pretty cool. Now, the next book, this was written, what year did this come out?
This came out in December of, what are we in now? December of 2021. So it came out about 7 months ago.
In the midst of the COVID.
Yes.
Did you find out that your appearances kind of went down a little bit during the COVID?
Well, yes and no. It certainly, it was a whole lot harder to book any live bookstore readings. On the other hand, a lot of bookstores were doing online readings, and that had the benefit of letting me reach and interact with people from all over the country. So
Right.
I have to say I didn't mind the online thing.
Yeah, you didn't mind that. You liked it.
I did.
I know. I was on Zoom for some meetings, that type of thing. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not. It lacks the energy and the dynamism. There's you can't read the room, right?
No.
But in terms of just reach, it was great.
Yeah, I know. I love being person to person. That's just the way. But when times are like Well,
Yeah.
in the midst of COVID, what are you going to do? Not see anybody, or at least get on Zoom?
Exactly.
And if somebody doesn't have a computer, come on over to my house and you can look at Zoom
Right.
like that. Now, the next book was Burning and Dodging. This was a novel. Tell us what this was about.
So I said that the seeds of Burning and Dodging were in this All at Onceness because one of the characters, the protagonist is a woman named Tina. She's 59. She grew up in New York, went to Haight-Ashbury in the 60s. Has really spent most of her life facilitating other people's artistic pursuits. So she's an organizer, she is a collaborator. She long wanted to be an artist herself, but is never really a visual artist, but has never really put herself to the test. And Tina's father is Bob. Her mother is Joan, and Bob is a TV engineer who worked on a program similar to the one that inspired this All at Onceness. So he also works in a very collaborative industry, but doesn't really recognize that.
Yeah.
And is always pushing Tina to, who he thinks is brilliant and talented, to sort of be a star. And she doesn't want to be a star. She wants to be a part of a more collective enterprise.
He was a research assistant too, right?
Yeah, so Tina takes a job for a man named Peter Bright, who is a retired TV journalist in Canada, in the Thousand Islands. And Peter, who is now quite old and really approaching the end of his life, is writing a book that looks at sort of classic, iconic photographs. So if you think about Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother or The Kiss in Times Square after World War II. And his intent, he really believes that photography can and should be the last bastion of sort of objective truth-telling. And but a lot of these famous photographs are staged or posed or doctored in some way, and he's writing an expose of that. So Tina becomes his research assistant, and in the course of that learns that Peter has an estranged daughter, an adopted Cree woman from Alberta who, and this was in Canada. There was something called the 60s Scoop, where a lot of Indigenous people were forcibly adopted and assimilated. So, Tina, besides working for Peter, is kind of on her own quest to revisit her past, to test her own artistic talent. She becomes intrigued by Peter's estranged daughter and sort of sets out to try to find her. She's also intrigued by a child in a photograph by an Eastern European photographer named Rowan Vishniak, and sets out to find her. And in the course of both of these quests, this is way too corny and facile, but finds herself.
She finds herself.
Yeah.
On the cusp of 60, so she's 59, right?
Yeah.
Do you personally relate to some of this coming onto your own a little bit later?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, yes. I certainly relate to it in terms of, having wanted to be a writer when I was,
So
young.
do you think when you were a kid, you had the ability but didn't realize it yet? This writing?
I think I was daunted, and I was also distracted. There was a lot going on in the world, and I had no real sense that I would ever age, or run out of time.
This is quite a detailed book. You are great. You got to keep up with this. It is good. All the details that you've got together. Did you have to do research for this book? I know you did for this one, right?
No, I did for Burning and Dodging as well. Mostly a lot of research about photographers and famous photographs. What else did I look at? Mostly, that's where most of the research went. But it was a joy. I mean, research is my favorite part of writing.
So when you appear different places, do you bring both of your books for people to buy?
I'm not a very good marketer, so no, I probably should, and now will,
Of course.
But they came out a few years apart, so I just have been focusing on one book at a time.
What is coming? Do you have something coming next? I always feel that an author has something up their sleeve.
Well, I'm working on a new novel after having vowed to never write another novel.
Any hint as to what it will be about?
It'll be about, I live in a co-housing community
That's
right
what
now.
we're also going to cover, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in Northampton, Mass, where this community is, had been the site from 1842 to 1846,
Yeah.
had been a utopian community. During the decade of the 1840s, they were like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Brook Farm in Boston, and the Shakers were still around, and so this will be set partly in the past,
Yeah.
1842 to
Coming right up
1846,
into how it is the present.
and partly in the near future.
So, all right, co-housing, this fascinates me. It almost sounds like a kibbutz to me. Is it?
It's, that's a pretty good comparison, actually.
Yeah. I had a friend at camp when I was a counselor, and she either had been in a kibbutz or wanted to be. And
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that sounds really like fun.
Yeah, so, co-housing is, people have their own homes.
Yeah.
The homes tend to be on the small side because there is also a big common house where in pre and post-COVID times, people will have dinner together,
Yeah.
once a week.
Right.
There's a child's playroom. The idea is to do more stuff together.
Right. No HOA fee every month?
No, technically it's a condo, so there is an HOA fee every month, but it's lower than a traditional condo because the other piece of this is the expectation that everyone does work that in some way contributes
Like
to the
how much
community.
lower? What's its fee?
Oh, well, the fees depend on the price of the house when you bought it. Like,
Yeah.
ours is about $400, I think.
How much?
400.
It's about what it is for up here.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not a place to save. Co-housing is not a place to save money. Although it's somewhat lower again because we're doing our own landscaping and some of our own snow removal and
Really? After
growing.
paying all that amount of money per month, here, you do it.
Yeah, no, but the expectation is
Yeah.
that everyone sort of works and contributes in some way.
Yeah.
So people take care of each other's kids, and we share, like it's 28 households. There are 2 lawnmowers that the 28 households share because why does everyone really need their own lawnmower? There's a lot of that kind of
Yeah. All ages.
stuff. All ages, yeah. We
All
tend to
cultures?
skew older, but
Different, everybody?
pardon?
All cultures?
Yeah, we're not, because you have to buy, and housing prices are as insane there as anywhere. We're not as diverse as we would like to be, but we're working very hard on it. Now I'm going to look at the camera and say, Village Hill Co-Housing, look us up. Because, no, we really are trying to we're full right now, but we're really trying to build up a robust waiting list with more young people and people of color and more socioeconomic diversity than we've got.
So co-housing, now that you've described it more, is it, sometimes, I don't know who used to build these in the 60s or whatever, but, senior housing or subsidized, they're hamster cages, they're so small. People are living, spouses are living into their hundreds together. You can't, how are you going to put 2 people into...
Right. Well, that's the beauty of having common space, right?
Yeah.
So that you can, anyone can go in the common house at any time, and there's internet in there, and a fireplace, and a kitchen, and there are some guest rooms in there. So
Are there libraries?
There is, we're small, we're only 28 households, so there are multiple rooms, and there's a room that's got some books in it. Well, yeah, we'll call that a library, sure.
Yeah, like what do they call it? Those little cute little things you see on the road now on people's lawns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just you can bring one or swap one or whatever.
Right.
I love that.
No, those are terrific, and those are sprinkled throughout our neighborhood.
Oh, really? Right within where you all are?
There's one in our co-housing community, and then there's several in the sort of larger neighborhood that our community is a part of.
Yeah, that's really cool. Julie, again, how can they get in touch with you?
JW Schlack, SCHLACK, @gmail.com, or JulieWittesSchlack.com.
Julie, who was the illustrator now of your books?
So the Burning and Dodging, the cover was based on a photographic print by a woman named Liz Chalfin, who runs something called the ZMA Studio in Northampton. It's a print shop. And she does some gorgeous stuff. And Burning and Dodging, is a mix of clip art.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the name of I'm sorry, This All at Onceness. This All at Onceness is clip art,
Yeah.
but the cover was designed by Regal House's graphic designer. And I apologize, I don't know that person's name.
Now, do you have a publisher or do you self-publish?
No, I do not self-publish. So this All at Onceness was published by Regal House, which is a small independent press. And Burning and Dodging was published by Black Rose Writing, which is another...
I hadn't heard of Pact. That the one.
Yeah, so Pact is an imprint of Regal House. So
Okay.
Regal, it's their nonfiction. So Regal House is sort of adult fiction, and they have two imprints: Pact, which is nonfiction, and Fitzroy, which is young adult fiction.
When you first submitted this to the publisher, did they make you wait for a long time, and you thought, I'm going to be rejected like so many other people are?
They and Black Rose were faster in their turnaround time than a lot of other. I mean, yes, there's still a long wait, but less than a year. So that's
That is good.
that is good.
So many authors I meet are self-published, and they said, and I agree, they don't want to wait for a year just to be turned down. I said, that's fine. Self-publish it, get it out there, get it popular, and then circle
Exactly.
back.
Yeah.
You all circle back, but meanwhile you'll be writing something else.
Right.
Your kids like your books, right? We talked about that.
Yeah. I at least they say they do.
I
So
hope they
we'll-
do. Well, you started, well, you were a grown-up when you wrote these. Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you do for work before you became a writer?
Oh boy, I did a lot of. I was a garment worker. I was an electronics worker. I was a secretary. Then I went back to school and was an instructional designer, and then a technical writer, and then a multimedia learning designer, developing training programs. But then in 89, maybe 99, 89, I think. I was working at a company, this was when the internet was new, and we were interested in using the internet to create online communities. And this was pre-Facebook. So we were there kind of from the beginning. No, it was, 1999. So we started a company called CommuniSpace, now known as C-Space, and built online communities mostly as a way for companies to do market research by interacting with small groups of people who had been recruited because they had some interest or need or life stage in common. And I did I was in charge of research and innovation for C-Space up until a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So you mentioned you'd been a typist. Did you go to business school or what for that?
Oh no, that was the most useful class I took in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You took it. Yeah. I didn't do well in the high school. We had about 30 kids in the class, and I was in the back. But when I left college, my folks put me through a business school. It was individualized learning.
Mm-hmm.
You were all the girls. We were sitting in the same little room, learning the same thing, but at our own rate, our own paces. We had a wonderful, what do you want to call, mentor or teacher, right in the booth. She would take us individually through it. I was out in 6 months.
Wow.
Steno and typing. Steno I basically lost, but the typing, she took me up over 100 words a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Typing's invaluable. I wish I knew shorthand.
Well, it's okay, but through the years you kind of forget some of it, so I developed my own. So
Yeah.
I can know exactly what it is.
Well, now fortunately there's all kinds of speech to text programs, which are not great, but better than.
Yeah, I know. I have to go very, very
Right.
fast. When you you go into a store and you try to check out now, it drives me nuts. It's not just here's the money or whatever, in and out. No. He said,
Oh, yeah.
now you're going to sign this. I'm like, what? With that crazy pen, and then, well, you're going to sign again? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Then, now have you got this particular card? I'm like, no. Are you on our members list or
Right,
whatever?
right.
No. it's like, they just want to wring their necks. It's like,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
I'm more struck by the reliance on mobile phones for absolutely
Oh,
everything. If you don't have a phone, you are out of luck.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not into the texting and stuff. I can do it. But I tell people, either telephone me, either on my cell or at home, or email me, and I love email. Love it. Absolutely. There are people
Yeah.
who don't, and there are people who do.
That's a generational thing.
Is it?
Email is still my primary means of communication, but
Yeah.
like my kids' generation, it's texting or social media. It's not email.
Yeah. Is there something, I don't know, but you feel like when you go into a store, you're going to get the third degree going out. Or trying to get out.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, what now?
Yeah.
And then you get all these constant things coming up, what's happening in that store.
Yes.
And when you go to the doctors, like at a big hospital like UMass, and they call you, it's funny, I mean, I like the attention, but they're calling me constantly to remind me about the same appointment. I'm like, Keely, it's like, you don't have to do that. I know it's going to be. They do that to you too?
Oh, sure, yeah. And and sort of all the medical privacy stuff. You need a username and a password and, to access your patient portal and all that.
Yeah, that took me a while to catch on. Thank God my husband's very techy. I am not.
Right.
We have been talking with Julie with Schlack, and she wrote Burning and Dodging and this all at Onceness. Before we close, Julie, again, how can they reach you in your books?
They can reach me at jwschlack@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, which is juliewittisschlack.com.
Are you going to be appearing anywhere soon? They should know that?
Not that I know of. No, I'm in that sort of quiet period now, working on the next book. So,
okay.
But I'll pop up again in a couple of years.
A couple of years,
yeah.
You'll pop up again. But you've done everything now with these, and you're going to be moving on with your new book?
Obviously I'll still promote these when and where I can. But yeah, I'm mostly focused on the new book now.
Don't let these go. Oh my goodness. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have her on again when she has her new book, right? That'll
Sounds
be great.
good.
Just let me know. We'll see you next time on Be My Guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.